Our first and last camping together. Ava, Olivia, and I were best friends since kindergarten. Our high school had just finished, so we planned to go camping. Olivia fiddled through her phone and found a place called Harmain Rainforest, quite famous for camping. But we had to walk about 5 to 6 hours to reach there. We were all extremely thrilled as it was our first night out together. At about 10 a.m., our journey began. The GPS on my phone showed that it would take us approximately 2 hours if we took the shortcut way. So, we began to walk through the bypass trail, which was through a small alley only fit enough for a single person. I checked my phone. 3 hours had passed, but we hadn't reached the spot. In no time, the clouds started to get dark and gloomy, making it seem like it was about to rain. However, it didn't rain, but the darkness made it difficult for us to walk properly. Suddenly, Olivia spotted a building about a few meters ahead. It was weird because the GPS didn't show any building nearby. We didn't give it much thought and went towards the building. Upon reaching, we realized that the entire building was abandoned, and there was a huge lot nearby, perfect for a camping site. So, we laid out our tents and began collecting leaves to light a fire. In no time, the surrounding was pitch dark. The warmth from the fire was making all of us quite sleepy. Suddenly, we heard an unfamiliar voice singing, "Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Everything's gonna be all right." It felt remarkably uncanny, but we were all too sleepy to even realize what was going on. "Guys, we all are too tired. Let's just go to sleep," Olivia suggested, and we headed to our tents. In no time, I fell asleep, but at around 12 a.m., I woke up to a strange, unfamiliar noise. I got out of the tent to look around, but couldn't see anybody. So, I moved my torchlight around. Unexpectedly, I spotted someone. I couldn't clearly see who it was, but I felt like it was staring at me. But in no time, it disappeared into the darkness. "Guys," I began calling out to my friends, but none of them replied. So I checked inside their tents. My heart sank when I figured out that both of my friends were missing. Where could they be? I thought to myself. Without wasting any moment, I began dialing up Olivia's number, but she must have left her phone in the tent because it was ringing inside the tent. Then I called Ava, but she didn't pick up. Just then, I heard a peculiar sound of someone screaming from the abandoned building. I was too unsure of whether I should go or not, but don't know why a part of me wanted to check out what was happening. So, I went to the building, feeling quite reluctant. But the instant I stepped inside, it felt very strange, like I was being followed and watched. "Ava? Olivia?" I kept calling out my friends' names when abruptly I sensed a cold breeze of air underneath my right neck. I promptly turned around to see who it was. What I saw shook me to my core. There was a lady behind me, almost a few meters behind. Her big, dark eyes enlarged as she started laughing hysterically. There were 2 tiny holes in the place of the nose, and dark red blood was dripping from her mouth. My heart was pounding as her laughter kept echoing in my ears until she stopped instantaneously and made a sad face like she was almost about to cry. "Where is my baby? Where is my baby?" she shouted and stared at me. I was confused, so I quickly responded, "I don't know," in a soft voice. Then, in no time, she started to laugh again. Her laughter wasn't normal at all. This time it was even louder. Then she began walking towards me. Her feet were positioned backward as she marched. I became numb as I witnessed her coming close to me. Suddenly, I came back to my senses and realized she was only a few inches away from my face. I shut my eyes abruptly in fear. When I opened my eyes, she was gone. Taking a deep breath of relief, I started pacing fast to get rid of her. Panic surged when I realized I wasn't the only one running. I turned behind to see the lady jumping and laughing uproariously with her mouth wide open. There's blood dripping from her mouth as she is laughing hysterically. "Where is my—" Before she could complete the sentence, I started screaming at the top of my lungs, "I just want to go home. Please leave me alone." But she laughed again and began running even faster. Her footsteps made deep, harsh noises. It wasn't a normal run, it was extremely scary. In despair, I also ran wherever my legs took me. I finally reached the top of the building and began to hide inside an empty room. But before I could take a deep breath of relief, I could once again hear footsteps coming upstairs. In no time, the footsteps came inside the room. My hands were trembling, and my body was shivering with intense fear. I had no idea what was happening. Immediately, I felt a cold touch on my shoulder. The color drained from my face. I was determined not to turn behind, so I tried my best to ignore it. Then, all of a sudden, a loud laughing noise became audible again. "They didn't know where my baby was either," she replied and stared up at the ceiling. I pointed my phone's torchlight up at the ceiling. To my disbelief, Ava and Olivia were hanged up there. Dread twisted in my gut, and I felt like puking. But before I could do anything, I felt a sharp pain in my stomach. Then I let out my last cry.